We had big news in the industry about 3 weeks ago. Search Engine Land was acquired by Semrush, both huge players in the SEO industry. Want to find out how it happened and what the future holds? We're talking to Marc, Sirkin, Danny Goodwin, and Barry Schwartz, top brass at SEL today on The Edge.
Go! Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. Powered by your digital marketing pioneers, Site Strategics. This week's featured guests are Barry Schwartz, Danny Goodwin, and Marc Sirkin. Now, here's your host, Erin Sparks.
Welcome back to The Edge. This is Edge of the Web, episode 726. I'm your host, Erin Sparks. So join us each week for some insightful conversations with industry leaders from around the globe. We deep dive into the latest digital marketing trends and tactics. So this show's actually meant for you, the digital marketing pro. So whether you're in an agency or in an in-house department or flying solo, get ready to expand your knowledge and stay on the edge. You can see all the shows and listen to all the shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. We're proud to have Site Strategics as the sponsor of this episode of the Edge of the Web interview series. We're celebrating our 20th anniversary here in digital marketing. Our mission is bringing you or your clients into focus by entity SEO, content strategies, curated content through subject matter expert interviews and the like, creating helpful content for you and your client that's ultimately incredibly valuable for Google. So contact us over at sitestrategics.com. Also, want to let you know who is actually going to be coming up on the show here in the next few episodes. We're going to be talking to Matthew Mellinger of SEO Gets, as well as Jonathan Gillum of Originality.ai. And also check out the recent interviews that we've had with Akvila DeFazio, as well as the Brittany Muller. We're also on the hunt all the time for our next guest on The Edge. So if you're interested in being part of the show, just drop us a line over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com. Also, make sure that you check out our weekly news podcast covering the most recent news in digital marketing, as well as Google algorithm updates that we can alert you with. We're dropping it as best we can every Wednesday to help you navigate your week in digital marketing. Jacob, what did we cover this week?
This week, we've got some great stories. We've got Automatic is confronting the irony of a new protest site, WPEngineTracker.com. Very similar to one they tried to set up, but actually using the right domain name this time. Google launching the November 2024 core algorithm update, and how a Google breakup might impact the PPC industry. Also, we look at the importance of proofreading. Take note, Mattel. Also, grabbed a pretty cool AI tool. This one's a great way to make some nice-looking visualizations for your next presentation. So those are pretty cool and worth checking out. And as always, we got some Barry blasts, some good articles from our friend Barry, who will be on this show.
All right, so amazing news there. Make sure you check out episode 727 to be able to catch up to all that news and more. Also, check it out. We brought back News from the Edge, our newsletter. We're bringing all the news from the show, our take on it, in case you want to have all those podcast links in your inbox. Along with that, we also prep a lot that doesn't come into the show, but we still wanted to share that with you. So you get some Edge insider information in that as well. You get all the news that we've covered, plus more, if you go over to edgeofthewebradio.com and sign up today. Also, check out our sponsors for this show. That's Site Strategics and Wix Studio. Make sure that you check them out from their links. They're wanting to make sure that you have a better digital marketing work week. So go to the links in the show notes, because that's how they know that you found them on The Edge. Lastly, we'd love to hear from you. If you could go over to ratethispodcast.com/edge today, give us a 5-star rating if you deem us worthy. We'd love to be able to have those type of reviews for the show. That helps us get in front of new listeners that are looking for SEO and digital marketing news. If you like a particular guest, please let us know. All right, with all our show housekeeping taken care of, let's meet this week's expert guests. All right, I want to introduce some key players at Third Door Media. First and foremost, Marc Sirkin. Thanks for joining us today. So Marc is a seasoned leader in digital marketing space, currently serving as the CEO of Third Door Media, the parent company of notable publications like Search Engine Land and MarTech. He also played a key role in Third Door Media's digital transformation. He helped the company adapt and leverage new technologies to drive revenue. So thanks for joining us today, Marc. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks to finally be here, Erin. It's been a long time.
It has been a long time. We hadn't seen each other since 2020, right before everything shut down.
Yeah,
So it's great to be able to.
Yeah.
That was a moment there. So thanks for reaching out to us, and I really do appreciate everybody's ability to come together here. Next on deck here, I want to be able to introduce Danny Goodwin. Now, he's a prominent figure in SEO industry. He's known for his extensive knowledge and contributions as a contributing editor for Search Engine Land. Now, you're also the editorial director. You've got like 2 decades of experience in your industry here. You also have a very important role of actually maintaining integrity and quality of content at Search Engine Land, especially with the recent changes in the acquisition over at Semrush. So it's great to have you on board. I just want to express my apologies. We haven't had you on the show before, so I'll rectify that soon. But we really wanted to get you and the other player in the game here, Barry Schwartz. Now, Barry, we know you. We love you. We talk about you every show. So that said, if you don't know Barry Schwartz in the SEO industry, shame on you, but he's got an extensive knowledge into SEO. He's been writing for over 2 decades. How many articles have you written now, Barry?
Well, I don't know, close to over 40,000, I guess. I don't know.
It's a lot of content, man. You're also the founder of Search Engine Roundtable, a platform that's dedicated to the latest news and trends in SEO. And if you haven't heard our news show, we have a Barry blast that we actually go through each and every show, just covering 3 maybe out of the 8 articles he writes every day. So it's amazing to be able to have you on the show again. So, gentlemen, we wanted to bring all 3 of you together to be able to talk about the most recent news that we caught whenever we were actually in the plane going out to Tech SEO Connect. That was back in October 16th, about 3 weeks ago. It was huge news at that moment for the SEO and digital marketing industry. So Semrush acquired Third Door Media, including Search Engine Land, all the properties of Third Door Media, MarTech, Digital Marketing Depot, and the SMX Conference Series. That was huge news, huge information. There was a lot of buzz about that at that conference. So I wanted to see how we could get everybody together and really talk about what that acquisition was all about. Now, the deal follows some previous Semrush acquisitions, including Compite in 2023 and Backlinko in 2022, and that all came from Semrush going public in 2021. So I know there's some constraints that maybe can't be shared here, but can you give us a picture, Marc, of how that all came to pass?
Yeah, I mean, it took almost 20 years, 18 years to build Search Engine Land into what it is today. It certainly wasn't a straight line to get there. And, I think the content game has changed, right? The news industry itself, the SEO content game has changed. And when they called us, I don't know that we were super surprised. It kind of made sense in an interesting way. But, at some point it was like, yeah, this is really interesting. And what they were telling us they wanted to do and the concept of content marketing in the future was, okay, this is actually really, really could be really cool if we can navigate it. It took a long time to close the deal, to be fair. There were a lot of considerations to it. But yeah, it was a really interesting conversation that kind of took a while to figure out. But ultimately it was like, okay, we think there's a path here that makes sense to both protect the brands and make sure that they're on steady footing, but also for the employees as well.
Absolutely. And how many employees are we talking about over at Search Engine Land? More importantly, Third Door Media.
Yeah, Third Door. I mean, we're around 30, 32. It depends exactly how you want to count contractors and stuff. But
sure, yeah.
One of the things that's really interesting about Third Door Media, I think, I like to say that we tend to swing above our weight class. What I mean by that is, like, it's 30 people. We were able to get organizations like Google back in the day, Twitter back in the day, Salesforce, all these incredible companies to work with us. And, because of what we had built, we were able to deliver that marketing value to those organizations on the sales and sponsorship side. And it put us in a really unique position in the sort of world of sort of media organizations. I think from the outside looking in, the reason I say this is only 30 people is it's not very big. Like, we're not very big, right? And so we highly leverage what we do, both on the news and the information side, but also in terms of just the marketing lift. So I think, again, there's a lot of different pieces we'll get into in the conversation of why Semrush might want to acquire an organization like Third Door Media. It isn't just about, the news piece, although that's
right. Yeah, you got a sizable tech stack over on the MarTech side of things that you've been able to build up there. So we certainly want to explore that. Was this your first acquisition, or is this not your first rodeo?
I mean, yeah, Yes and no. I mean, this is the first sort of full acquisition where I was a senior leader in an organization that got acquired. Early in my career, I went through a very small one that was sort of like a weird spin-off situation, but effectively, yes. And it's been a terrific learning experience for me. Like, you could talk about it and read about it, talk to friends about it, and then you go through it yourself, and it's like, holy cow. There's a lot here.
Absolutely. One of our team members actually was on the Salesforce M&A department for about 5 years, then navigated about 10 different acquisitions. Slack was one of them. And yeah, there's a lot of underpinnings and a lot of kind of entrenched management concerns and culture concerns that have to happen whenever there's that type of a sizable acquisition. It's always tricky. Can you give me some of the impressions or some of the insights that you had? I mean, this is fresh. This is new. You're just getting into this, and I certainly want to share the opportunity for the other two gentlemen here to speak as well. What are some of the impressions that you're getting right now, or maybe some trepidations you had as you navigate this acquisition?
The way I've been thinking about it is sort of in three phases. There's pre-acquisition third-party media, and we did the things the way we did them, and nobody said anything. We just did what we did. We're in this weird zone now where, we're trying to figure out how to fit what we do best into a software company. We're a media organization. They're a software company. So it is an interesting interlocking of things that get, really specific really quickly. What's the editorial process? How does it work? What does it look like in the future? All those kinds of things. Right. And I think for some of our people, not all, some of our people have never worked in a public or a larger company. Semrush isn't huge. So I think we're 15 or 1,600 people. And so getting used to things like internal procurement systems and HR systems, like we didn't have any of that stuff at Third Party Media. It was all spreadsheets and, duct tape, which is great. It works. Yeah, duct tape is probably an overstatement, or understatement. But yeah, I think there's that natural transition. And I think that there's also the same trepidation on the editorial side of like, well, what does change? And our mantra has been nothing changes until it changes. And so that we've been proceeding apace with our subject matter expert program, our editorial programs, our marketing programs. But things will change over time in terms of process and linkages and approvals and those kinds of things. But for the most part, it's been bumpy, but we're getting there. We're getting there. It's been good, I think, so far. But I'm curious to see what Danny says about that. But
yeah. Toss it to Danny about this. Again, from an editorial and process standpoint, but also culturally. Again, you're just getting a flavor of the other teams there. You want to chime in on some of your insights?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's absolutely a really exciting opportunity for us. We're just at the tip of this, so there's a lot still to be determined. But, you can just see there's a lot of opportunities. Semrush has access to tons of data. Like, it's just one example. We could make really good use of that in some way, which we still have to figure stuff like that out. But, what I've been really impressed with so far is like, they really want to move fast, which is a good thing. It's very much, it almost feels like, even though they're a public 1,600 employee company, it's very much startup feel to it.
Oh, cool.
Which is good. Yeah, it's good like that. The main issue is like just figuring out who to talk to about this thing and that thing, but we'll get there. But yeah, it's like a really exciting opportunity. And what has really, one of my big concerns obviously was editorial independence. When we started this thing, that was my first question to multiple people at Semrush before we made the announcement. I was just like, are we going to have this? Because I was very concerned about it. Both Barry and I have pretty good reputations in this industry. And, that's a concern. Like, we don't want that to be tarnished. And we've had some really good conversations around that. And we've even had an instance so far where something popped up, ran up the flagpole. They're like, do your thing. Like, this is your show. So that was awesome. Very encouraging. So yeah, it's like, overall, yeah, this is like, it's a lot to learn, a lot to take in, but super exciting, like just big opportunities ahead. So yeah, I think it will ultimately, once we figure out a few of the little internal processes, like lots of good stuff to come for people, good new resources, guides, all sorts of really exciting stuff. And we're going to keep covering the news as we've done for 17, 18 years, whatever it's been at this point,
Yeah. And you touched upon it, but I mean, literally, SEL is the bastion of quality information, quality analysis, watching trends, watching new things that are cropping up immediately, and being able to have a really fair and balanced perspective on that. And on top of that, you also have a platform for writers to contribute, and you've given a lot of not only grace, but also growth to individuals, anybody that actually has some really good information to share. You're giving them a platform to be able to step onto. Now, Barry's been writing since on SEL since 2006, I think, Barry. Is that correct? And
Yeah.
that's to the point, is that you've been there, and the reputation of search engine land, bar none, is one of the best in the industry, if not the best. So there's a level set right there. Barry, what are your thoughts about what you've witnessed and what you're hearing from the editorial integrity that it was really important for SEL?
Right. So just some history. Yes, I was with Search Engine Land when we first made it, from originally the initial
Right.
days. So I went with Danny Sullivan from Search Engine Watch to Search Engine Land. And I mean, all my concerns were like, nothing's changing. I was like everybody else, like, is this going to hurt my reputation? Is this going to hurt the Search Engine Land reputation? And they said, give it a try. You'll see. Nothing's going to change. And I can always walk away if it does. So I'm giving it a try. And so far, I haven't heard anything. I continue my day on a day-to-day basis doing what I always done. Nobody's said anything about changing anything to me at all. So I have seen anything about any reason for any changes in the future. But again, I'm a little bit different than Marc and Danny. I'm actually a contractor. I'm not an employee of Third Door Media, so it's a little bit different. But in terms of the editorial news and so forth, that's my main priority. I want to make sure that we keep the same level of integrity across the board when it comes to the stuff we write on Search Engine Land. So that's all I really care about. And so far, everything I've asked and everything they've told me has been spot on.
That sounds fantastic. Obviously, you saw the social media whenever the announcement came out. There was a lot of reflection back on a previous acquisition, and that was Backlinko in 2023. And there was a number that I dare say more than a kerfuffle here, because we saw some changes in some of the Backlinko content that was more reflective on and positive towards Semrush, as opposed to what the content was originally focused on when it was focused on Href. So Href made some pretty sizable noise in the social media circuits of what are they doing, why are they doing this, but legitimately, it was a acquisition. It was Semrush's property, and they have obviously full rights to do that. But that really did send a lot of ripples through the SEO community here. Then that was kind of the backdrop of this acquisition. So at least from a perception standpoint. So what you're saying here is that going forward, editorial integrity is not going to be challenged whatsoever. But what about some of the older content, gentlemen? Some of the observations of tools, is that sacrosanct? Are we going to make sure that that's not going to be adjusted over time? And I know you can't speak to it 2 or 3 years in the future here, but that is part of the concern that the community has. I'll toss it to Danny first, and then go over to Marc.
Sure. Yeah. And I remember actually covering that very story you were talking about for Search Engine Land. Ahrefs and a lot of the community got very upset about that. I don't remember off the top of my head my reaction, but I remember vaguely that, I came down on the side of, yes, Semrush owns it, they can do what they want with it, but they also needed to have disclosures. And I feel like that's going to be a big piece of this heading forward, just making sure we're very transparent. We've already put on every page of the site, Third Door Media is a Semrush brand, Search Engine Land is a Semrush brand, all that stuff, which I think is, that's step one. Obviously, anytime we mention Semrush, we want to be very transparent. Anytime we do anything promotional like that, we want to be very transparent heading forward. So, and we've even been told, we don't, it's sort of viewed like internally, I think, that if Semrush changes Search Engine Land, it's kind of a failed acquisition. I may be speaking out of turn there, but they really value Search Engine Land as it is, and they see the value in the audience we've created and the respect we've earned over the years as the authority in search. So I think they're very cautious, which I like. They don't want to wreck this. Obviously, we're a trustworthy resource. They want to keep that. So there's going to be a balance, and there will be changes. I don't know what they will be. But, at some point there will be changes. There will be links to Semrush. There's no getting around that. But, we're especially really cautious. Like anything with news, we do not want to touch. Like that is kind of like we call ourselves the publication of record for search, and we don't want to mess with that sort of stuff. It gets really dicey too. Like, we have a lot, as you mentioned, we have a lot of contributors who are subject matter experts. It would feel kind of icky to me if we went into their content and insert a bunch of things that they didn't put in there. So yeah, we just want to be super cautious with all of that heading forward. And again, like we don't have all the answers yet, but very much protect the brand.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, ad visibility and navigation aside, right? Making sure that content's sacrosanct. Like I said, there's already inside social, there's a lot of posts of watch this page, especially whenever it comes to tool reviews and what have you. But when it comes down to the contributors, right, there's a lot of contributors that come from competitive tool sets competing with Semrush. And you haven't heard any signals that there's any blackballing that's ever going to happen in that space, right?
No, we want to make Search Engine Land a platform for anybody who wants to be there. I'm sure that there are competitors who wouldn't want to be on something that's owned by Semrush, and that's okay. There are
and that's their choice,
really
absolutely.
Smart people,
right.
And that's their choice. And it could be they may want to be on Search Engine Land again when they change their employer, which I'm sure will happen too. So, yeah,
and it does happen,
still very
absolutely.
much to be determined. Because like really smart people end up at tool companies and vendors all the time, but that doesn't diminish them because of where they work. So yeah, Search Engine Land will be there if they're in a situation where they're not at a competitor and they want to contribute.
We're proud to have Site Strategics as a sponsor of Edge of the Web. Here is a question. How do you create that authoritative subject matter expertise that we know Google's looking for? Learning from your client is always the place, but organizing a well-thought-through interview process is time-consuming. Site Strategics has developed a subject matter expert interview process that's backed by our years of interview techniques, as well as SEO research and buyer's journey persona definition. You can bring us in as an SEO SWAT team, extracting some incredible knowledge, voice, and passion of the SMEs for your use. We can deliver a targeted series of questions and goals through the interview, work organically through some great conversations, and provide a set of deliverables that you can take to omni-channel deployment. Video content, audio content, transcripts, blog posts, structural content, social, all from the untapped knowledge of your subject matter experts. Find out more. If you're interested in what we can do for you, just give us a call at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932, or simply just go to edgeofthewebradio.com/site. We'd love to share some great successes with you. Remember, it's not you, it's me. Marc, I'm going to toss it to you real quick about the advertising side of this, because Search Engine Land does have a sizable advertising platform there. And, well, what kind of advertising did SEL see from SEO tools that may or may not have directly competed with Semrush? I mean, there's a lot of tools that actually want to get their visibility in front of your audience. So is there going to be any type of constraints in that space?
Yeah, so let me back up a little bit, like a good suit should, and kind of just look at the industry as a whole, kind of what's been happening, just to frame the conversation a little bit. I think that part of the reason Semrush is interested in owning a media platform, obviously, is to find ways to increase sales of software, PR, branding, all that kind of stuff, and that's all good. At this point, it's risky to have absolutes. Like Danny said, things will change. You don't know exactly what, but certainly things will change over time. It is absolutely true that one of the missions is to maintain Search Engine Land's brand, let's just say broadly speaking, right? The credibility of the brand of things like SMX, MarTech, all of them. Mm-hmm. And so as we navigate that, I think one of the industry questions that I know I've been asking myself and others is, like, what does the future of content marketing look like, right? Like we've seen, like, let's say HubSpot, let's just take HubSpot's enormous success in what they've done on just the pure content side, both branded and unbranded content. And looking at that as, okay, it makes sense why a software company would buy something like Search Engine Land and MarTech. How you navigate that, I think, is the trick, and it's in the details. And there are things on the editorial side that will remain as quote unquote sacrosanct as possible, and there are things on the advertiser side, as you're asking me, that are a little trickier. So there are conflicts of interest, right? There are companies that directly compete with Semrush, and we'll navigate that. We're navigating that now and sort of coming up with, like, okay, what are the rules? How does this work? What does it look like? Yeah, there's companies that just have straight conflicts of interest, and they're not going to be on the Search Engine Land platform as an advertiser or a sponsor in the future, versus on the editorial side, we're kind of open for business there. It's like, if somebody from a competitor is a really good writer and contributes a lot and they want to, and we can figure out the conflict of interest, because again, that's a big part of it. Editorially, we don't have an issue with that. They might. And we'll navigate that together. And we're already starting to see, how that's going to work, how that's going to look. The other thing that I think is interesting is, like, Semrush it's not just a SEO tool, right? I mean, there are aspects of it, certainly SEO, PPC, but there are broadening platforms that they're acquiring that do other things. other capabilities that are much broader from a MarTech and marketing standpoint. So we have a lot to figure out there. But I think what Danny said is 100% true. Is our mission from the editorial side is to maintain the credibility and the power of Search Engine Land and MarTech brands from a reader and a engagement standpoint. The commercial side, we have some things to figure out, and we're well on our way to sort of defining that better so that we have clear rules and engagement.
Oh, absolutely. And take your example as the entire marketplace that Semrush has. There's a lot of tools that do actually compete with some of their internal analyses. So analysis tools. There's a lot of backlink and analysis tools, as well as competitor research tools that directly challenge that. So Semrush has already kind of blazed the trail of having some playground where everybody can bring their toys, right? So that is actually very helpful
I think
as well.
A lot of credit goes to that team, both the team inside Semrush who does the acquisitions, but also the team who's sort of running, everybody from the CMO all the way down, to have this vision, right? To sit there and say, we think we can build this software business by not just building a content strategy, but acquiring components of it that have legitimacy in the marketplace and acknowledging it's risky. Right? Like it's a risky strategy that if we pay X for Search Engine Land and MarTech and all the credibility goes away, well, what did we buy? Right? There's a real issue here to navigate. Like Danny had said, all credit in the world to them for having the idea, navigating the idea, executing the idea, and then working with us to sort of figure out what does that look like in the future. It's if you're a content marketer, this is like wild stuff, right? Like this is stuff we've been talking about for years, and here it is, and it's like, yeah, brands are media companies like this. And this is part of what it looks like. So I think that's a big part of the lesson here is how do you do this at scale? This might be one of the ways to do it.
And they have some sizable experience in incorporating different tool sets and different platforms in there. So it's very, very hopeful. Let's talk about some future opportunities and benefits. I want to make sure that we put the editorial side aside, because we really do believe that everything that you guys have said and are executing right now will be in the foreseeable future. But the future and the benefits that really makes this deal so very attractive is, just let's talk about SMX and conferences for a second. And whoever wants to take a swing at this, we're dying as SEOs and digital marketers to come back to in-person conferences like we were seeing in 2020 and before. SMX and SMX Advanced are fantastic community builders. What are the aspirations now that you've got Semrush backing? Have you heard some ideas? Have you been discussing some true meetups in the future?
The answer to that question is we've been talking about it.
I thought you were gonna roll out. It depends, honestly.
Yeah. No, I have nothing. We look. The reality is what you said, and I appreciate you saying it. Right, SMX Advanced in particular, but SMX East West. These were iconic events in the search space over years, and they changed over time, and they whatever. And that's not to take away anything from the other events that are out there. All these events, you find your community, and you have a great time. And we took a lot of pride in running SMX and the MarTech conference. It was a way for us to deeply connect with the community, to understand the community. I think one of the things that's easy to forget, and I've always loved the tagline. I know some of my colleagues don't love it, but obsessed with search is the tagline of SMX. There's a reason. We're obsessed with search. There's a reason Danny has been doing this for 20 years. There's a reason why Barry has 40,000 articles published, right? Like obsessions can be unhealthy, but they can also be very, very productive.
Absolutely.
And so, we as an organization, we're obsessed with marketing, right? MarTech is marketing is the MarTech tagline. Obsessed with search is the SMX tagline. Like we want nothing more than to connect with the community the way we used to in person. I can't say anything because I can't say anything, but keep your eyes open, attend SMX next week virtually. There's gonna be some great content there to throw the plug in, but we're working on it and we're really excited about the opportunities. It's clear that the community is enjoying getting back in person. I would say that for those out there, that are doing events or attending events, the world has changed for events. Like the mechanics of it, the economics of it are different than they were pre-COVID. And it is really challenging to figure out when and how and where to run in-person events. I speak from experience, and we've been thinking about SMX in person for a couple of years now, trying to figure out how to bring it back. And so no promises, but we'll see what happens.
Everybody watching his body language, right? He's signaling something right there. No, but we appreciate it. Danny and Barry, any thoughts about some of the future growth of SEL and the Semrush connection there? Any other aspirations that you guys want to share with us?
I want to quadruple traffic. That's my aspiration.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, really, it's just really growth. As Marc alluded to, it's challenging right now. It's very much you call it the attention economy, where everybody wants to have their hot take on LinkedIn, and so it's like it's getting challenging. But ultimately, what we do is sort of be the kind of the shining light. I think there's a lot of bad information out there, and we try to not do that with the content we put out. We try not to do the clickbait. We try to be accurate. If we mess up, which happens, hey, we try to fix it too. So all that, we just want to be that source of truth that people can still trust and rely on, and to do their jobs better, every day from the stuff we're publishing. If we're publishing about it, we think you need to know about it. So we're going to keep doing that in whatever form that evolves to over the coming years.
Excellent. Barry, any thoughts about the future here and what we're seeing from these first steps here, or is it too early to say?
I mean, again, like I said before, everything they've told me, great. Everything so far. I mean, I haven't really spoken to them at all, in terms of my daily job. So
Got it.
I assume everything will remain the same for me. I'm quarterly on the news side. I don't think they'll be changing what I write. I mean, I rarely personally cover tools. The only time I ever reference tools is when I'm doing these ranking update things and tracking the volatility, which Semrush actually does an amazing job of, but so do all the other tools that I cite there. So I'm looking forward to more of the same, and hopefully, they won't have it. I doubt they'll have any impact on what I do on a daily basis in terms of, anything negative, at least. Positively, hopefully. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, to that point, your content is going to be accessible to an entire range of Semrush users that maybe haven't been actually interacting with SEO. It's going to be integrated into the tool set, and the opportunities to be able to see news as it's applicable to certain tools. You're going to get closer and closer to an audience that can activate off of what you're talking about here. So the thought leaders and the leadership that you have in editors there and writers are going to be exposed to a whole nother group of users and an audience, right?
Yeah, no, it should be interesting. I mean, it's funny because I remember having the representatives from Semrush, back then we used to call them SEMrush, at the early XMX shows, having them write for the first time at Search Engine Land. It's nice to have them as, part of the team. So I would hope that anybody using the Semrush tools already knew of Search Engine Land, but if they haven't, if this lets them know of Search Engine Land and XMX even more, that'd be great. So I'm looking forward to any ways to bolster both brands to this partnership. But at the same time, again, my main goal and my main focus is making sure that I want to make sure that Search Engine Land and XMX maintains its brand integrity going forward. And I think everything they've told me to send so far has been that case. So.
Excellent. Well, I was really thinking about some of those small business owners that maybe aren't paying attention to news, but they are actually utilizing the Semrush tool, and all of a sudden SEL's content's available for them to be able to really activate, as opposed to conventional marketers in the marketing industry. I think you do have, they've got, I don't even know the amount of users that they've got inside of the tool set, but what a great opportunity to be able to have more and more traffic coming in to SEO. SEOs and marketers, you're going to like this one. I want to tell you about Wix Studio, the platform that gives agencies total creative freedom to deliver complex client sites while still smashing deadlines. Let's start off with SEO. It's at the core of Wix Studio, baked into every edit, update, and action you take. Best-in-class defaults, automations, and bulk actions free up time, and you can customize at scale for more control. You can say goodbye to endless plugins and hello to native integration with Google, Facebook, Instagram, Amazon, TikTok, and many more. And on the creation side, you can efficiently bring your most ambitious projects to life thanks to smart design features, flexible dev tools, integrated business solutions, and seamless workflows. Even after clients take over, built-ins like automatic redirects help sites stay optimized for long-term growth. Speaking of growth, you can track every campaign against client KPIs and automate monthly emails to share learnings with clients. All this backed by fast, resilient infrastructure that's built to scale. Get started with Wix Studio today at edgeofthewebradio.com/Wix Studio. I want to wrap up here. I really do appreciate everybody's time, but I do have one more topic that I want to cover with you guys here real quick. Well, two, forgive me. And Danny said it before, the integration of the data that Semrush has into analyses on SEO. Can you give me an idea of what those opportunities could be? Are we talking a type of infographics or deep areas of content where we can really get into understanding what Semrush has available? Can you give me some ballpark of what we're looking at there?
I think that's very much to be determined, unfortunately. But I know, like Marc and I have had many discussions prior to like me knowing about the acquisition. Like, we just love to get more unique new data out there, and Semrush is sitting on a mountain of data. So I'm sure there are going to be lots of opportunities in a lot of different ways. One of the easy examples you can think of, Bright Edge, and a few other tool companies have been putting out all these insights on AI overviews since they launched. Semrush could easily do something like that or something else, like they have an amazing feature set. So it's basically we're just limited by our imagination. So I'm curious to see where that all shakes out.
So are we. Go ahead, Marc.
Yeah, I would just build briefly on what Danny said. I think you nailed it. We're limited by our imagination. I think that, again, you take a step back and look at kind of the information space, content marketing space, whatever you want to define it, bringing those insights to life through the lens of search engine land's credibility and insight is a really cool opportunity. We don't know what that looks like yet. I know you're disappointed, Erin, but like, and which is fine. Because again, like the desire for better content is it's ever present. We always want to do the best we can. We don't know what it looks like yet, but that's only because it's been 3 weeks, right? Like
sure.
Those conversations actually have already started, which is really cool. And it's super fun to be in the room and sort of like, what about this? What about that? So there's a lot happening that I think, we'll see what happens over the next few months.
Fantastic.
I could
go ahead.
Chime in as well. I mean, I've used Semrush data for many of my articles over the years, and their data scientists are great. They provide really great context. Working in the old days with Olga, and then more recently with Morty, who you work with in terms of interpreting that data. So they have a great team and they have a lot of great data, and working together more closely on that end, maybe directly with a data scientist might be more useful. But again, they've been really great at providing data even before this acquisition. So I think, going forward, it might make it a little bit more, direct line to those people might be even easier.
Absolutely. There's a lot of correlative studies that they do, a lot of just understanding beyond just volatility of industries and different key concepts. Love to be able to follow up on that in the future and see what you guys are actually starting to build with them. And it also gives a lot of the leadership from Semrush opportunity to be involved with SEL to a greater degree, like you're talking about. My last question for you is really not about the acquisition, but that since I have you here, just talking about the future of SEO. And I know that's a whole nother show into itself, but some key things that are happening right now. We have such a changing topography when it comes down to all the real estate on the SERP, and AI overviews are all over the place. And we know the backstory of the experience that we're having with that, the accuracy of this. This has wholly changed our environment over the last 2 to 3 years here. And Barry, you're certainly reporting on it. Danny, you're reporting on it regularly. What do you guys prognosticate of? I never even want to bring up SEO is dead, because it's not. It's never going to be dead. But where are we really going when it comes down to navigating and being able to truly see rank trajectory in all of these different spaces? The challenge is like a multi-headed hydra here of where we can help place ourselves from our own site content as well as our brand. Give me some ideas of what we should be looking at and maybe what the future is going to be unfolding for us in all these new user experiences on the SERP. That was a very long-winded sentence, but take a shot at anything you want to go after. Toss it to Barry first.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny because you look back at feature snippets and SEOs were like, we're dead, SEO's dead, Google's just taking the content, putting it on their website, nobody's going to click over, ran Fishkin's zero-click studies and so forth.
Yep.
I ultimately think that when we look back at this, it would be the same thing. Like, we want those links, we want those brand mentions in the AI overviews. If Google's not going to link to us, it should mention our brand. If somebody's searching for like the best SEO tool set, hopefully, the major tool sets will show up there. I'm sure Semrush wants their tool set mentioned there, even if there's not necessarily a link. You can always Google what's Semrush, or if you are a dentist and you're known for a specific type of procedure, you want to come up for that. You want your name, your brand name to show up there. So it's all about, I think, in the future, it's about brand marketing and also getting those links in there, because Google and Microsoft, and the other AI search engines are all saying how important it is to link to publishers and how publishers are their partners and so forth. And they're going to have to do well. They're going to have to do good with that statement and go ahead and drive traffic to publishers. So I think ultimately, again, do what you're doing. Make sure you're coming up for the types of keywords that you want to rank for. Check those AI overviews, do a lot of searches and see how those AI overviews look, and just adapt to make sure that your content shows up in there and that your brands are mentioned in there.
Obviously search is changing right now. It kind of feels like I wasn't really there for the early days of SEO, but like this kind of feels like almost a wiping the slate a little bit moment where, we're starting to learn about the AI engines. I'm very curious to see what OpenAI is going to end up ultimately doing with ChatGPT search. That's one to watch, I think. And I think we've seen a lot. I know obviously Google is still the mega monster of search, but we've seen a lot of kind of fragmentation where, sometimes you go to Amazon for e-commerce searches, TikTok searches certainly grown recent couple of years here. So there's a lot of opportunities beyond Google that are potentially emerging, and I'll be very curious to see, especially in light of the election results, what happens with all the discussion around will Google break up, because I have a suspicion that may not happen now. But
yeah,
that's another remains to be seen. Like there's a lot of up in the air stuff, but yeah, ultimately it's just, SEO is going to constantly change. And I've been referencing this a few times this year. I stumbled across an old Search Engine Roundtable article not long ago where Barry said the sentence, SEO is harder than ever right now, in 2004. So if it was as hard as ever in 2004, what are we at now? It's like 100 billion times harder, right? That's just the case. We adapt, we learn new things. I'm curious to see how there's the new buzzword around generative engine optimization that doesn't replace SEO. It's sort of like almost like a sibling offshoot of it. So that will be interesting to see if people can figure out how to get into these LLMs and cited. And it's kind of a really exciting time. It's, it's very nerve-wracking too. I know a lot of people are upset with Google over their algorithm updates, helpful content and all that. So, and of course the rise of Reddit. So yeah, it's challenging. I can only imagine if, 20 years ago it was challenging. It's way more challenging now. Who knows where it'll be in another 5 years, but we're still going to be here. I know that much, because
fantastic.
To get business.
I'll toss it to Marc as well. Thoughts about the future of SEO, sir?
The things that I've been thinking about are like the rise of short form video in particular, but also podcasts and other alternate audio or alternate non-text based information. And I find myself, focus group of one, like TikTok and podcasts have become my primary source. I think the other thing that's really interesting to think about is the coming agent revolution. Like, is it going to work the way we think it's going to work? Probably not, but is it going to automate some things so that we continue to go further and further into our, echo chambers that we build with all these tools? Yeah. I mean, if SEO was hard 20 years ago, it's 10 times harder now. There's no doubt. And from a search engine land standpoint, like that's good, right? Get traffic because of that. So people want to read about what we're writing. But I also think as a practitioner, which we all are, as well as media people, like where do you start? Like it's just really confusing. And that's something we talk about just about every single day.
Well, you just you listen to podcasts and you make sure that you're always dialing into Edge of the Web, because we've got the best content from search engine land on a regular basis, right?
Nice shirt, bro.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I had to do it. I
need to give one to my wife.
Well done.
Absolutely. That was a quick change artist right there. Hey, we want to promote SMX. Next is coming up. It's going to be a live event on the 13th. We're going to drop this show on that day. You've got some fantastic speakers lined up there. You're talking paid, local, SEO, shopping ads, algorithm discussions, holiday marketing, A/B testing, and the like. Moderators like Barry, Greg Finn, Danny, obviously, Anu, Melissa Mackey, Jessica Bowman, Leslie Bacon from Third Door Media as well. You guys want to say anything else about the show?
Yeah, I'll give you
It's gonna
one.
be
I'll give you
awesome.
one secret that we haven't released yet, which is there's going to be a session with Barry. I'm not sure if Barry's going to be on it yet, but Mike Pastor, who runs Martech, Danny, myself, and a guy named Todd Malacote, who's also, by the way, an old time SEO guy, who is our counterpart at Semrush.
Very
We're going to do kind of a roundtable session just like this, but there as well. So there's a little hot tip for something else.
And this is free for everybody to be able to join, or do we have a
free
ticket
and
price as
virtual,
well?
so no matter where you are in the world, on
Fantastic.
demand, available immediately. Join us live Q&A. Yeah, it's terrific. It's a really great value at free. So come
It
join us.
really is. And on top of it, you can also add different speakers to your calendar as well. That's some cool functionality we saw over there. So you can drop in whenever you want to drop in. Thanks, gentlemen, for joining us and really sharing information about the acquisition and building our hopes, what we're hoping and expecting to be able to see coming from Search Engine Land. Danny, you've been doing a fantastic job executing your editorial status. And Barry, I mean, what can I say here, right? I mean, you're doing a fantastic job. Marc, also congratulations to everybody, as well as yourself, for the acquisition. I'm sure that was tough to navigate, but what a great investment that you made over the years, and what this looks like in the future. Do you know what your role is over in that owned media space? Is that still forthcoming?
No, I'm technically the CEO of Third Door Media now, which is stepping into Chris Elwell's shoes is big shoes to fill. You know, we sort of sit in the marketing organization in the sort of owned media group, and you know, it's my first time with those three letters, and so I've got a lot to learn. I'm excited to learn it, and hopefully I'll do well. Fantastic. All right, gents, I appreciate the time today. We want to make sure that everybody tracks you down on socials. On Twitter, we got Mr. Danny Goodwin, Twitter X. We got Rusty Brick with Barry, as well as M. Sirkin, that's Sirkin. You can also find them on the LinkedIn accounts and YouTube channels as well, Rusty Brick and Search Engine Land. And Barry's doing it's new on a daily basis. Man, that's got to be a rough time with Morty each and every day. We have it once a week, and I mean, we go through a therapy session right there, but once every day, my gosh.
I enjoy the pain. So
we're both masochists. We're gonna have
Why
our
we're
show
an
notes. Absolutely, the hits keep on coming, right? Well, thank you, gentlemen, for just sharing this information, because we were all really wondering what was going on there, and this hopefully shed some light on your mission. And the mission is not changing, as we hear it from the top brass here, folks. So thanks again for jumping onto this show.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us,
Yeah.
Barry.
You're more than welcome. And obviously, we're going to be tracking the changes that are happening over there, and we're looking forward to a lot of really good insights and new tools visible in the analyses there. Don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web on YouTube, where we're dropping insights from these shows as well as our news, thanks to our sponsors as well. Make sure that you visit them with the links in the show notes, because that's how they know that you found them on the Edge. On top of everything else, if you go to ratethispodcast.com/edge today, let us know how we did on this show or other shows that you may have heard. That's how we get in front of new audience listeners, just like you were at one point in time. Check out our newsletter, as well as everything that we're doing over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. From all of us over at Edge, stay safe, stay well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.